Why, hello there, everyone. I just finished watching episode 1 of Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, and now I am going to give my thoughts. I wrote down some notes. I actually watched the episode twice just to make sure I absorbed everything, and I wrote some notes down, and I'm just going to be going through them in no particular order and with minimal editing, because like I said in the last video, I want to pump these things out once a week, because now that we are in episode 1, we are going to be getting these weekly, so I want to pump one of these episode reviews out every week. And I'll say this again, just in case some of you guys are joining this video series with episode 1 rather than the prologue episode. I'm going to be assuming that you've already seen said episode before clicking on this video, so I will be talking in detail about things that happen in said episode, in this case, episode 1. Like I said in the last video, or like I was proposing in the last video at the time when the prologue episode came out, I wasn't sure if that was being treated as episode 1 or not, but they are in fact treating it as an episode 0. The prologue episode is episode 0 in a way, because now this is episode 1 rather than, when I say this, I mean the one that came out most recently, the one we're talking about today. This episode was episode 1, which is after the prologue. It's not episode 2, so it goes prologue, episode 1, for anyone that is confused about that, potentially. So, firstly, what it actually reminded me of the most is Revolutionary Girl Utena. Did anyone else think that? Anyways, the opening shot is that of the School of Technology, which looks like an electronic razor for some reason. And when Suletta gets there, there's obviously a time skip, and that immediately makes me wonder what the political state of the world is. When I say the world, I should mean the solar system in this case, right? But the universe. It makes me wonder what the political state of things is, because there were a lot of politics that were established in the prologue episode, but because of the time skip, I think it would be natural to assume that the political strife and the state of politics isn't exactly as it was during the prologue episode, because obviously, as time passes, politics develop and different world events take place, so I'm assuming that to an extent things are different or more developed, but also to an extent I'm assuming certain things are still the same as during the prologue episode. But you have to just make these assumptions because they didn't really they didn't touch on the political situation of the prologue episode at all. However, they did introduce some more politics in a way, this time more on the corporate side of things, because we have I actually wrote this down, there's the Benerit group, which seems to be in charge of this School of Technology, and it is comprised of these different businesses whose 3 main components are Jetter Heavy Machinery, Pale Technologies, and the Grassley Defense System. I actually wrote those down because I knew I would forget those, right? I'm getting ahead of myself, though. So when Suletta gets there and she sees Miorine out in space, she just assumes it's someone that is lost in space, right? Someone that needs rescuing. And so she gets out there. Also, by the way, not just with this scene in which she tries to rescue Miorine, but pretty much every single thing that Suletta does in this episode is a great way to characterize a character. Great way to introduce a main character and to characterize her in such a short amount of time. You have multiple things characterizing her. But Miorine was actually trying to escape. She didn't need rescuing, which is the irony of this situation, which immediately makes their relationship sort of interesting. Or my question about it, though, is that, so obviously you find out later that Miorine was escaping because she's trying to get out of this arranged marriage, sort of, because apparently some guy called Duel Jetter, which is definitely a Gundam name, by the way, but this guy named Duel Jetter, whose hair looks like Chibbity Crockett's. He looks like Chibbity Crockett, but definitely doesn't act like it, because Duel Jetter is cartoonishly bad. Like, he is like cartoonishly a bad guy, which I thought was a little heavy-handed, but it's obviously deliberate, right? I'm going to get back to that. But basically, it's sort of an arranged marriage because apparently he did some kind of duel, because you can kind of just duel your way to get anything in this school of technology, because apparently the school of technology also has its own sort of law system in this weird, I don't even know what it is. It looks like some sort of, it looks like it might have been some kind of asteroid that they built facilities onto, rather than it just being 100% man-made. But anyways, I think she was trying to get out of that, right? Obviously, you don't know that at the time, but then you find out. But my question, though, is that, was she actually planning on getting picked up by someone? Because she was pretty angry at Suletta for, quote, rescuing her, right? She said that she had almost made her escape until Suletta, quote, rescued her. So I'm wondering if she was actually expecting someone to pick her up, right? Or if not, maybe she was just being dramatic and was planning on dying out there, because maybe she thought it preferable. Maybe she thought dying preferable over just being subject to being in this arranged marriage of sorts in the School of Technology. If it were the former, if she actually was expecting to get picked up by someone, then I'm really curious who that would have been, right? Because they're not really close to any other kind of facilities or factions, as far as I'm aware. I'm surprised Suletta didn't ask her. I'm surprised she didn't ask her if she was actually expecting to get picked up by someone. Maybe she asked it off screen, right? Because there was a jump cut. Or maybe she was just so surprised and thrown off she didn't think to ask it. Maybe they'll touch on that again later. Also, we got I did not think we would get a Captain Bright slap this early in the show, but we did in fact get a slap already in episode 1. It's kind of a Captain Bright slap in a way, right? I thought that was pretty funny. Suletta slapping the not Chibbity Crockett on the butt. That was actually really surprising. And again, another great way to characterize the main character. So she gets herself wrapped up in this duel to essentially win Miorine's freedom, for lack of a better term. And then this was something I'm a little lost on. I might want to go back and check this part, but I don't really know. I don't really understand how Miorine got in the Gundam Aerial to duel in place of Suletta, because Suletta immediately went back into the Gundam Aerial when she started losing, right? And she was super insistent that she be the one to pilot it. So if she were that insistent, seeing her that insistent about being the one to pilot it, it's weird that she would allow Miorine to get in there in the first place, right? But then she just absolutely washes Yul Jedrick because of the whole... It was really because of the funnels or the bits on her Gundam Aerial, right? Even the other people seemed to be surprised about that. Also, we got a whole slew of characters who presumably were already living at the School of Technology, just suddenly introduced with barely any kind of introduction at all. So I'm assuming they're going to just... I think they just wanted to dump the majority of the show's cast on you in episode 1, and then as the episodes progress, we're going to then get actual proper introductions for a lot of these characters, namely the staff at the School of Technology, or at least who I am assuming to be staff at the School of Technology, right? Because then you also have the Benneret group. Also, there was the assassination plot, and I think it's kind of funny that Suletta, in taking over the Gundam Aerial and winning that duel, she actually indirectly stopped that assassination from happening. So she's not even aware of it, but there's sort of an extra layer of irony in that her winning that duel actually led to more results than she was even aware of. So that was interesting, and I'm wondering if there might be reason for them to resume that assassination plot again later. So maybe she only postponed the inevitable. And then it was kind of funny. I was a little thrown off by this at first, but then when I thought about it a little bit more, I understood why this would be the case according to the School of Technology's laws, perhaps. And that is her basically fighting for Miorine's honor, her beating the fiance, essentially. I don't think they ever actually established, they never really vocalized and made a verbal treaty on what the duel was actually for, but based on the results, I guess apparently she was literally fighting for Miorine's freedom from this arranged marriage, and in beating the fiance of Miorine, she essentially inherited that position, so now she, by right, is the fiance, which had a bit of a comedic element, right? And that's another reason why this really felt like Revolutionary Girl Utena, if anybody knows what I'm talking about there. And as for the visuals, I haven't even talked about the visuals yet, but this episode did have more CG than the prologue episode. I don't think it was bad though, right? Because most of the CG with the mobile suits were just the generic worker-looking mobile suits in some of the establishing shots of the School of Technology. It looks about on par with Gundam Unicorn, so it looks good. The Gundam Aerial did have some CG parts as well. It looks about on par as Gundam Unicorn. I think the CG looks good in Unicorn. It's just that I've been spoiled by Gundam The Origin, and now that I have watched Doan's Island, I'm also kind of spoiled coming off the CG from that movie as well. But again, Witch from Mercury is going to be a full-length episode, like a full-length series with episodes, right? Presumably 50, 51, 52 episodes. So obviously the budget can't be as high per episode compared to an OVA or a movie, right? It makes sense that the Origin and Doan's Island CG looks way better. But I am curious if this is representative of the CG to 2D balance that will be present in the show going forward. But on the other side of things, there were some really impressive rotating shots during the final duel of the episode. So even though the CG seemed almost extreme, I'm not really critiquing the CG, I'm just saying it was almost too much, right? And that it was more than the prologue episode, right? Maybe some people were expecting less CG because of the prologue episode. But like I'm saying, those rotating shots looked really impressive during the final duel, and I think that more than made up for it. So visually, I still think this looks great. Also, I really like the inside. I like the whole aesthetic of the inside of the School of Technology. It looks kind of like a space colony, right? Obviously, because of the ring. Also, speaking of the School of Technology, I really wonder what kind of position this school has in the universe, right? In this continuity's world, because it seems to be very combat focused, right? It is called School of Technology, which could just be technology in general, but the place has mobile suits walking around, and things are settled with duels, right? So it seems very combat focused. So even though it may not be inherently military, I'm wondering if it works closely with some military. Maybe they send some of these graduates to the military, right? Maybe they're contracted out by some kind of military. They really haven't explained the military politics all that much yet. It's mostly corporate politics, right? If you even want to call that politics, it's mostly just business. Also, I think it's pretty ironic that Gule Jeddirk kept calling Suletta a country bumpkin, even though Suletta, being from Mercury, she never even saw a tomato before, but they actually have agriculture, including tomatoes, on the School of Technology. So it's funny, he was calling the person that didn't live with farming a country bumpkin, even though he lived in a place with farming. But of course, what they're considering country in this universe might be completely different. It might not inherently be agriculture, because I don't really know what Mercury does in general, right? We saw a little bit of a place around Mercury in the prologue episode, but I don't know if that was necessarily representative of what Mercury's all about, because Suletta was saying that she was sent to this place so that way she could make Mercury a more prosperous planet in general. So that could mean anything, right? I don't know what Mercury specializes in necessarily. I still need to go rewatch the prologue episode. I said I was going to, but I think I'm going to go back and rewatch the prologue episode after we're at least a few episodes in, once they start bringing up things and political factions and stuff like that from the prologue episode, because then it'll have more context in my mind when I go back and rewatch the prologue episode. But anyways, let me know what you guys thought about it, and let me know if you have any predictions on what will happen in the next episode. As for me, at this point, it's still so early that I'm kind of just accepting everything that's showing up. I'm kind of just accepting everything that's being said and everything that's being put on screen, and I think I'll have a more concrete opinion on what I think of the show once we're several episodes in. But so far, I'm really liking it. And also, no opening yet. So presumably, we're going to get an opening on the next episode. I'm pretty sure they already released the song of the opening, but I didn't want to listen to it yet because I would rather listen to it and see the opening in the actual context of an episode instead of just seeing it by itself. Because I think how an episode leads into the opening is at least partially responsible for your initial perception of it. So anyways, I will see you guys later, and bye for now.